This is a follow-up to some of the issues or concerns that I saw across the papers that you all submitted for your first paper. Mostly focusing on APA format, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things before we wrap this up. When we look at referencing particular pieces of work using APA format, it's usually either single author or multiple authors. So if we're going to use multiple authors, if we look at what we have here in the first bullet point, the first time that I reference that particular piece of work, it's important that we remember that we have to put all the authors' names in there the first time. So, for this particular one, American teenagers had cell phones, with a third of those utilizing instant message for communication with their peers. And since this is the first time that this particular source is used in the writing, you must put in all the authors' names as they appear in the article. So Smith, Salloway, and Caruso, using the ampersand as opposed to the word and, comma, and the date that the particular paper was written. The next time it shows up, which is the second bullet point, where continue to talk about some of the things that were in that particular journal article, we can go to the Smith et al. At 2009, as opposed to having to put out all the authors' names again. We can just use what the just use this reference here. We can just put in Smith et al. 2009 as opposed to having to retype the whole thing, just to make it a little bit neater and a little bit tighter. All right, again, with multiple sources, if you're going to try to aggregate some information, in other words, for this instance, most current college freshmen and sophomores have had access to the internet for a majority of their lives. And that's a statement that was made in a particular writing, but it was supported by multiple sources. So what you would do is list in this particular citation all the sources: Oblinger and Oblinger 2005, Smith, Salloway, and Caruso 2009, and then Smith, Salloway, and Caruso 2010. And you notice that they're in chronological order based on publication, so that's important. So if you're going to use multiple sources to support a statement that you're going to make in your paper, then you would use this format where they would all go within the same citation, right? All within the same parenthesis block, listed out in chronological order, separated by a semicolon, and then you would list them out. And that's how you would use multiple sources to support a statement that you're making based on whatever those particular authors had written. I saw some concerns with the amount of quotes and the quotations that we were using, and how we were formatting. So basically the rule in APA is if the quote is fewer than 40 words, you incorporate it into the text and enclose the with double quotation marks. If it's 40 words or more, you display it in a freestanding block of text, remove the quotation marks, and you can find that right in the APA guide in crediting sources. But I wanted to include in here a couple of examples. So again, this is less than 40 words, and basically, and you'll notice how I set this up, right? I said the author, Davis, and his counterparts, et al., in 1989 defined usefulness as, in the quotations, the degree to which a person believes that using a particular system would enhance his or her job performance, end quote. All right, and then the page reference I put in parentheses at the end, so you can specifically go to that particular article from Davis in 1989 and get that to that particular page and find that quote. This is how I would prefer if you were going to use a short quote, and this would be within the context of a paragraph where we were talking about, in this case, technology acceptance model, and I was defining some of the terms that are used with technology acceptance model, and we want to draw them right to the particular author's works. Now, for a quote that's more than 40 words, in a freestanding block of typewritten lines, and omit question marks. That's the basic rule. So you start with the quote on a new line, you indent it a ½ inch from the left margin, in other words, the same place that you would begin a new paragraph, and then you type the entire quotation in the new margin, indented the whole way, 1½ inch from the left-hand margin. and any other subsequent paragraphs within the quotation a half inch from the new margin, maintaining double spacing throughout. The parenthetical citation should come after the closing punctuation mark. So basically what you're doing is rewriting the entire quote, indented 1/2 inch from the left-hand margin, and then you cite it at the end. Now, for instance here, and this is right off from the APA, the OWL website. So it says Jones, 1998, study found the following things, and then you notice that it's indented 1/2 inch from the left-hand margin, or in this case it's a little bit more for dramatic effect so that you can see that it should be indented. Students often had a difficulty using APA style, especially when it was their first time citing sources. And then you'll note that down at the end, down here, they put the actual page in the citation at the end of the quote. But most importantly, you'll notice that it's indented significantly over here, right? Here's the margin, and then the 1/2 inch that it should be indented. I would prefer, and I think that most folks would prefer in the academic sense, that we really try to avoid a large number of quotes. The general rule is if you can rephrase it, right, without losing the context of the original words, then you should rephrase it, right? It just makes the paper work better. It also shows an understanding of the material, and you really want to limit the number of quotes, because quotes are used for added emphasis, to draw attention to a particular point, but if your paper is littered with them, or your paper consists mostly of them, then the effect of the quotation or the direct quotation is really lost. So instead, paraphrasing, I think, works a little bit better. First example says, yet according to Hardman and Carpenter in 2007, many public schools have not kept pace with the methods students use to communicate outside the school setting. So basically, I just rephrased what they wrote. Did not lose the effect, did not lose the point that Hardman and Carpenter were making, just works a little bit better. And the point was not so important that we needed to draw in the actual direct quotation from them. And then the second one, according to Oblinger et al., because there was two authors for that particular particular journal, in 2005, this generation of students are frequently referred to as millennial generations. And you notice I put that in quotation because I wanted to really draw out that word. I wanted to make sure that people were aware of what they were, gave a page reference and then a net reference, net generation reference. And you'll notice that the page reference in here are a little strange. It's page 2.4 and page 2.10, and the reason being is that was actually out of a Kindle version of a book. I could not get a hold of the hard copy, so I had to have a Kindle version. So I wanted to make sure that folks would actually be able to find it if they were looking for it. Okay, so the next thing that we want to get under control or make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music with is how we reference how we format our reference page. So basically I have three examples here. The first one being a single author document. Here it's author's last name, a comma, and then their first initial, the year of the publication, right, followed by a period, and then the title, right? And you'll notice that there's no capital letters other than the first letter of the sentence. In the event that there's a colon or a multi-sentenced title, like this one here where it's divided up, you would then capitalize the first letter of the next sentence. This one is from a journal, so we want to put in the name of the journal, followed by a comma, right? The volume of the journal, followed by, and this is italicized, the volume is in italics, followed by the edition, so volume 41, edition 1 in parentheses, and then the page number of the journal article, and then a period. This particular one is an example of a multi-authored document. Make sure that you use the ampersand. Same basic thing, bring fire into Web 2.0, journal article, volume, italicized, edition, page number. And this one here is, and then it's a web source, so we have multiple authors, the year, the title of the study, right? You'll notice that it's a rather long one. And then when it's a journal, or I'm sorry, an online article that you're looking for, you retrieve from, and then the web source or the web link. For the go-to site, if you don't have a current copy of APA guide, this is the best link that's out there right now. This is the go-to site for APA formatting. This is really the best one out there that you can use. And again, of course, you can always bounce it off from me in a draft form, and we can mark it up and edit it up. A couple other comments as far as the papers. You know, you have to remember the environment that we're operating in here. This is an academic environment, and I know that the majority of you come with a wealth of information, but in the academic world, opinions have to be supported by fact. And I know that as I read the papers, many of you drew on experience, and you drew on things that you have learned and seen over time. And those are great, and those are perfectly acceptable to put into the discussion module. But when you're writing an academic paper, if you're going to express an opinion, you must support it with a published source, journal articles, so forth and so on. And mentioning sources, I really need you to start driving into peer-reviewed journals, textbooks, good sources, and we want to try to stay away from some of the web sources that I saw bouncing into some of the papers. They're great areas to go and look and get a context for what's being said about things, but we really need to make sure that we're verifying sources, and we make sure that we're bringing the best content into our papers. Again, I put out there that anybody that wants me to look at them, I'll be happy to review them. Just give it to me early enough. Give me at least a day or two before they're due to look at, because I surely will find something. And I want you to put forward good product. I want you to also improve on your writing and researching skills, and that's really the direction that we're going to go. So we'll be tightening down the screws a little bit as we move forward. Expectations go up after each assignment. You should be getting better. You should be getting better at doing research. And if you're having a hard time finding sources, you need to reach out to me. You need to go to the library. There's an online access to the library, and start really delving into those peer-reviewed journals and trying to find good quality information. All right, thanks a lot.